why I disagree with Tupac's statement about Michael Jordan and him playing with little white kids in the PAL league in their neighborhood versus playing with little black kids. And also why I think that Tupac's statement actually influenced Michael Jordan to take a look at his influence other than just being a basketball player. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Black chat. Life is like the cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Black chat. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. I'm gonna get right into it. This is a story that I think everybody can relate to if you follow Tupac or Michael Jordan, right? I disagree with Tupac in regards to Michael Jordan and the statement that he had made a while back in regards to Michael Jordan playing basketball with white kids in white neighborhoods or the PAL unit or PAL league. And I'm going to do it like this. So Tupac, basically around in his prime, he basically made a statement. He said, let's see Jordan come down to the inner city, just a parking lot, and just shoot ball with the kids. I bet you that would change their life. Instead of going to some suburban PAL unit, shooting the ball with but the little white kids that always have heroes to shoot the ball with. They got dad to shoot the ball with. They got grandpa to shoot the ball with, uncles to shoot the ball with, godfathers to shoot the ball with, their friends, their neighbors to shoot the ball with. Everybody's got a basketball court in their neighborhood, right? I understand where Tupac was coming from, especially at the time that he made this statement, in which he was partially right, because Michael Jordan at that time hadn't really, gone into any communities. He wasn't really going into the community, embracing anybody, making any kind of public appearances, anything like that, for the black youth of America. Not that he needed to be the father of anybody's child other than his own. But I do understand what Tupac was saying in regards to that. There's a certain amount of responsibility that you hold. Not that you have to take on that responsibility, but understand that you do have it. That's like Kobe Bryant going into Rutgers, playing basketball, during the summertime, and just going down there, Kobe, just getting it in, that made a world of difference to so many young kids in New York and around the country, if you will, so I kind of disagree with Tupac on that a little bit, but more importantly, I agree with him too. So I agree to disagree, if you will. And if you let me hear me out, you're going to understand where I'm coming from with this. So now, with that statement, it seemed to me that Tupac was basically saying that, he was kind of putting Michael Jordan in the position of being what a person's mother and father should be, which is a good role model, right? I think the role model that we need is not sports figures, is not Michael Jordan, is not, rest in peace, brother Kobe Bryant, not Steph Curry, but we need our mother and fathers to be our role model, our aunts and uncles to be our role model. We can't look for some business or sports created entity, like Michael Jordan to be our role model. But I do understand whom much is given, much is required. So so I think that's the point of view that Tupac was coming from, right? But what I also think is, Tupac making that statement, I think it put some fire underneath of Michael Jordan, if you will. And I think later on in his career, I think he started to see that, because he had made the one statement in regards to the black, I think, congressman who wanted Michael Jordan to support him, and Michael Jordan wouldn't make that appearance with him because he said, Republican kids buy Michael Jordan shoes too. So that was more of a political move than a social move, if you will. So when Tupac said that, like I said, he's kind of putting Michael Jordan in the place, and I get it, because so many of us were disenfranchised based on a lot of things systematic involving the system, But where I think Tupac was right, if you will, was the fact that I think Michael Jordan paid attention to that statement. I think it hit him, and the reason why I say that, it would be some years later, so while Tupac was on his thing like he always was, he always spoke his mind. Michael Jordan had the Jordan Institute for Families back in North Carolina. He even donated money in 2001, 2002, basically his entire salary to various charities supporting the 9/11 tragedy. Now, that's more of a PR move, the 9/11 thing, if you ask me, but gratefully and rightfully so, because people were in need at that time. Can't take that away from anybody. But like I said, he did have the Jordan Institute for Families back in North Carolina, where he was from. But once again, those things, I think Tupac helped Michael Jordan pay attention to, because none of us are perfect. You know what I mean? But the most important one to me was when Michael Jordan found out about a guy who was his number one fan by the name of Jeffrey Harrison, right? And the good part about this is, I think people like to allocate their resources or their influence where they feel like it could be most effective and most helpful, if you will. And so this guy, Jeffrey Jordan, he suffered from autism. And, and he played basketball, but if you ask me, I would have to say he was Michael Jordan's number one fan. And so Michael Jordan's manager basically had found out about the guy, Jeffrey. He would go on the court, in his hometown. He lived in Washington State, and he would go on the court, and he would basically put on Michael Jordan's, the whole uniform, the shorts, the uniform Michael playing, the shorts, the shirt, the shoes, and all of that, and go out there. But people would make fun of him and be like, Jordan's here, and, he think he Michael Jordan, and so on and so forth. I don't really know if they knew that he suffered from autism, but that was the case. So Michael Jordan's manager found out, right? And so what Michael Jordan did was Michael Jordan actually sent him 2 boxes of clothes, shoes, jerseys, his cologne, all of that. He also wrote him a letter, basically letting him know that, about going for his goals and believing in himself. And it was real positive. You understand what I'm saying? And, so when you think about it, it's real touching that Michael Jordan would do something like that. But he also gave the guy, Jeffrey Harrison, a call on the phone. And at the end of the call, the guy, Jeffrey Harrison, told Michael Jordan, he said, "I love you, man." And Michael Jordan, in his response, said, "I love you too, man." You know what I mean? And that's powerful. I think that's more powerful than any money you could give somebody, anything that you could donate from somebody, is being the power of example. I got to say that the way Michael Jordan played basketball was phenomenal. But the way he carried himself off the court, the way he carried himself, was even more of an influence, if you will. He wasn't in no drama, always professional, always dressed nice. You know what I mean? He always appeared, right for the moment. You know what I mean? And so I think that him doing that for the guy, Jeffrey Harrison, and being that influence, was touching. And so I go back to Tupac now, right? Because the kid from Baltimore, by the name of Joshua, who was suffering from leukemia, Tupac got a letter from his family in regards to Tupac coming to see him, because he was in his last days, if you will. And Tupac made that happen, so much so Tupac named his publishing company after the kid, and he called it Joshua's Dream, his music publishing company. So I take those two situations, right, and I place them next to each other. One kid, suffering from leukemia, cancer, and another brother, Jeffrey Harrison, who suffered from autism and dealing with Michael Jordan. And so, like I said, Tupac was right, and sometimes that's the dialogue that we need to take place. Sometimes we need to say things, that we feel, about our brothers and so on and so forth, because sometimes we might not even be thinking about that, the influence that we have. I remember Allen Iverson said that he didn't really understand the influence that he had, when he was playing basketball, because you just grew up playing basketball, you in the NBA, you know what I mean? But once he kind of stopped playing and people would come up to him, he understood the influence that he had. So sometimes, it's okay, in that respect to be who you are. But Tupac was always that kind of guy where he would criticize. So like I said, I disagree with Tupac from the initial statement, from the kind of putting Michael Jordan in the place of parents, black parents, who should be more of a role model than any sports figure, politician, rapper, actor, or any of those people, right? But I do understand what he was saying in regards to that, because he felt as though that Michael Jordan going and dribbling the ball with little white kids, they didn't really need that. You know what I mean? But I think, when you are a global icon like Michael Jordan, I mean, you affect everybody, even till this day. You know what I mean? As well as Tupac. When you think about Tupac, he's gone, but people still talking about him today like he's still here, including myself. Well, I don't talk about him like he's still here, but you know what I mean? I talk about him. Like I said, he was a friend of mine. I considered him a friend of mine, like I said. And so so when you deal with the bigger picture, man, I think that this is something that, we should all focus on. Like I said, I disagree with Tupac on one end, but then I agree with him on the other, because I think, once again, that he inspired Michael Jordan with that statement to probably, take a look on the inside and say, hey, you know what? I can do a lot more. You know what I mean? I can't just, all of this, what I've been given by God, and not really try to be an influence or touch some people's lives personally, and some that we may know of and some we may not know of, because a lot of stuff is not for public consumption, and everybody's not trying to do everything to try to be in the media limelight. So, yeah, your boy DELRAY, straight gang.